As I said, I'm Alan and I'm a makeup and hair designer. I've been working in the industry for over 25 years. I generally work in film and television, and I'm a personal makeup and hairstylist for Dame Joan Collins, which is a wonderful job. I think a lot of you know me from that. And I recently did the Gavin and Stacey Christmas special. So that's a little bit about me. So I'll get into the video now. I'll turn the camera around so that you can see the makeup that I'm talking about. So, where to begin with all of this makeup? Well, it starts a long time ago, actually. Like a lot of us, we probably enjoyed makeup from our mothers or grandmothers or aunts' dressing tables, and that's certainly where I first got my passion for makeup. And the oldest thing that I found, I'll try and get these to the camera so you can see them. This is a nail polish buffer powder, which is yellow, and it's made by Longles in Slough, funny enough, which is quite near to where I'm staying now in High Wycombe. And it's actually a buffing powder, and Mum thinks it's like from the 40s or 50s, but this was the oldest thing that I found so far. And please, everybody, join in with any of their memories as well from these periods, because I'm sure you've got your favourite makeups from this time as well. And the other thing I found, I will cover a little bit of hair, but I found my grandmother's pins from the 30s, and these are crocodile clips, and these as well. So found lots and lots of treasures as I went along. So lots of things in the archives. So the first things I found were these Coty lipsticks, which it's great if you're going to markets and things and you find old makeup and colours. It's a great period reference. Any students watching, it's really good to look back at the colours they used, especially if you can get hold of old makeup in sort of flea markets or like that. It's a great reference to the colour. This is actually by Avon. It's called Hide and Light. It's actually a concealer stick, and you can see it's really, really white. It's crazy. So any of these, obviously they're not being used anymore because they're really, really old, but I just want to show you some of the colours, and they're very creamy, very, very waxy, but just to give you an idea. So these kind of predate the 80s a little bit. They're from sort of my mum's dressing table, but they were the first makeup items that I really got to play with, and I really enjoyed sort of painting my own face and practicing. I was really, really shy when I was growing up, and I found that makeup was a perfect sort of mask for me, and I used to be able to dress up and colour my hair lots of really mad different colours, and I loved all that. And my first sort of cosmetics that I bought were from places like Woolworths and Boots, and the brands I used to use were 17 and Bourjois, Miners. But one of the first places I used to go was up the King's Road to the Great Gear Market, and also another place I used to go to quite a lot was the South Molton Street drugstore, which used to sell amazing kind of end-of-line cosmetics, and they were really cheap as well. It could really start to sort of build up your kit and all that kind of thing. And it was a wonderful, wonderful shop, and I wish it was still there, because you used to find some amazing things. Yeah, I know, Sarah, that it was Bourjois, such a great brand. And smelt just delicious, didn't it? I mean, it was such beautiful products. It's such a shame they've left the country now. But yeah, such a reliable brand. Yeah, I bought a lot of my makeup in Woolworths. So I think we have to really start with some of the music that I listened to, because it was so influential at the time. I mean, people who know me, I'm a huge Toya fan, and I just love this makeup by Richard Shara. It was just beautiful, so amazing. I always used to try and sort of copy these looks, and this look as well. These four from Toya. This sort of single made me want to do makeup. Absolutely loved it. Yeah, Zabia, original Stargazer. I had them in red, black, and white, and I just wore them all the time. I'll get onto some photos of myself later, but you'll see what sort of looks I used to create. So more Toya. This is an artist called Sheena Easton, and if Dustin Hunter's watching, he'll love this. There was a show back in the 80s called The Big Time, and they took this girl from Scotland, Sheena Easton, and they took her, it's sort of like a modern day X Factor. They cut her hair, they put makeup on her, and they turned her into this pop star. And she's like one of my favourite artists, and I can always remember Lulu saying, "Oh, you shouldn't have cut your hair, you'll never be a pop star, you'll never be famous." But I love that story, and I loved her style. She used to wear like a blue see-through rain mac, and her makeup and hair was always flawless. Morning train, yeah, 9 to 5, modern girl, fabulous. Visage, of course, huge influence on me. Steve Strange, his looks were just incredible. Just loved those. I'm putting Adamant into the mix here, Stand and Deliver. When I was at school, we had this French trip and we had this party, and we had Plimsoll whitener, and we used to paint white stripes across our faces, and there was some glitter nail varnish there as well, and we painted some little kind of crosses up the sides of our heads, which were hilarious. And so much fun. I had a red and black cowboy shirt on, I think, and some pantaloon pants, but that was really good fun. And sort of one of the first times I was sort of publicly painting faces, and I was getting everybody ready for this party. I think we were about 13 or something, but that was really where my love of makeup started, was putting makeup on anybody that I could get my hands on. And I just loved getting friends back from school and practice the looks from Toya, and I just loved makeup from a really early age. And obviously Susie was a huge influence, Culture Club, Annie Lennox as well, of course. You can't not. I mean, such a chameleon, such a wonderful artist. Still love her so much. And this look here, Wham, very typical 1980s look. With the coloured makeup, it was just great. There was a real divide in the 80s. I think there was sort of the very sort of new romantic, punky, gothy kind of looks, and then there was the very sort of more polished kind of American styles. But it was just like wonderful to have these, just this huge mix of different looks and different kind of characters. It was so many people to like aspire to, and we were going. It was just a wonderful time to be young. Strawberry Switchblade, if you check them out on YouTube, they were brilliant with their spotty little ribbons. Pete Burns, again, wonderful. Billy Idol, another one. Grace Jones, I loved. And this single here, Bow Wow Wow, caused so much controversy at the time. It was based on the Manet painting Le Déjeuner Célèbre, and caused such an outrage at the time. I used to try and buy as many picture cover singles as I possibly could from Woolworths, and I was really disappointed if I couldn't get the picture cover. And of course Madonna, you can't not talk about the 80s without Madonna, but I could do a whole live just about Madonna, but she had such a big influence. And of course Bananarama. And I was also quite sort of punky and into sort of gothy bands, and the Specimen were like a really popular band for me in the sort of gothy area, where I loved a black lipstick. And then Belle Stars, again, great girl, a long history of loving girl bands. And then Boy George later on, which is kind of where the picture on the flyer for this talk is kind of where I got our little like mini dreads from, which I really loved. I thought they was just like wonderful, really wonderful look. So a lot of the makeup I've got here are from like number 7. So this is like a gunmetal. It doesn't come out very well, obviously, because it's quite old. But Bombshell. I used to wear this colour all of the time, and this is a gold one, and this is called Golden Ginger, and this is from 17. If you can see that as well, which is great. This is a very early Miners lipstick, and a really bright. That's such a good pink. It's just wonderful, and I will keep these. I mean, just because it's just such good reference for colours. I think Maxi was another makeup. I used to wear these colours all the time in the 80s. I loved it so much. Again, more sort of beautiful cosmetic compact lipstick bullets. This is the Rimmel one called, what's that one called? Mocha Sorbet. Very pale. very crunchy. And of course, can't do the 80s goth without, and you can see how much I used that. That's a Miners one called Jet Black Gold, which was just wonderful. Just loved a black lipstick, couldn't get enough of them. These were particular favourites of mine. They were from Miss Selfridge, and my friend Jane, who was a punk, she had a whole collection of these, and I used to go around to her house and just look at them and just go, I want all this makeup. Yes, I do remember Iron Lady. It's fine. It's fab, Nikki. Hi, thanks very much for joining me today. And you can see the payoff of these are so good still. They're just wonderful Wonderful Cosmetics. I used to use these all the time on my eyes, and they're just such good cosmetics. Loved Miss Selfridge makeup. It was fabulous. Yeah, Miners. Yeah, brilliant. I'll get onto Miners later because Miners makeup played quite a big part in my development as a makeup artist. And then 17 singles. Used to love a lot of silver makeup, silver and gold and blacks and all of those kind of colours. And this is a 17 lipstick that I had, which is white and frosty. I think I used to put that on top of all sorts of things. That's why it's probably lots of different colours. But just wonderful makeup and great memories of wearing them. So I think I'll probably now pop into the television that I watched at the time and the influences that I had. I loved Miss World, and nowadays it's probably not very PC to talk about it, but it was the most glamorous thing on TV in the 70s and 80s, and I used to sit and watch it with my Auntie Liz, and we used to make all lists of all the different contestants that we liked, and it was the first time I'd really seen all these different nationalities of girls from all the different countries and all the beauty. And the national costume parade was like my favourite because I just used to love all the colour and the brightness from all of the contestants. And this is a great documentary if you're looking into 70s makeup, Beauty Queens of Bedlam, which is on iPlayer. And funnily enough, just before lockdown, I was at Good Morning Britain with Joan, and Pearl Jansen, who was the runner-up, was a guest there, and Joan was actually one of the judges at Miss World 1970. So they had a picture done together, and it was a really nice reminiscing of that time. So I love Miss World, and it was a real influence on me just to see all these beautiful women with the beautiful makeup, beautiful hair. And obviously in the 80s, Dallas and our version, Howard's Way, everybody wanted Jan Harvey's haircut. I'm sorry it's not a closer picture, but there we are. Every woman wanted that haircut in the early 80s. And Coronation Street, which is what eventually took me to Manchester in the late 80s, early 90s. I loved these characters. The women in these shows were just amazing. And actually, when I went on to do Footballers' Wives, a lot of people won't know this, but actually her hairstyling was very influential in what I did with Zoe later on in Footballers' Wives. But I'll probably do another video about the noughties because there's a lot to talk about them. But these were all of my real favourite shows that I used to watch during the time. And even now, I'll go back during lockdown. I've been watching a lot of episodes of Coronation Street. I just think it's a wonderful show and great for period reference. So we can't really also talk about this, but with all the hair colouring that we had, who remembers Sun-In? Oh my gosh, what on earth were we doing with Sun-In? It was the most toxic product I've ever come across. Apparently you're supposed to spray it in your hair and wait for it to go blonde or blow with a hairdryer. And it was just... it just used to turn my hair orange. It was absolutely appalling. This was a colour called Shangri-La by Recital, which I absolutely loved. I used to colour my hair all the time with Recital. Absolutely loved it. I had a bit of an on-off relationship with Chesham High School with the colours of my hair. I was often being sent home, or they actually put a rule in about hair colour when I was there because I used to dye it red and blue and purple and crimp it and spike it. I also used to use glints, which was... I love glints because of the advert with these bleached out faces and the lips. And here is a tube of glints that I found in the garage, and it was glazed cherry red. I loved this. And also there were shaders and toners, and it was the big period of mousse. Mousse was the biggest thing. We had Country Born gel from Boots, which was green, I think, and it just used to stick the hair together. But then we had mousse. I remember when mousse came, it was like revolutionary. Orange size, ball in your hand, rub it in. But this advert was everywhere in the 80s. I loved it. And again, this chapstick advert, I used to have these coloured gels. I think they were by Jerome Russell. There was a blue one, there was a silver one. And I used to kind of paint them on my lips and paint them on my face as well, which I loved it. I loved it. And this is an editorial I found of Yasmin Laban actually from the 80s, and it's just I really liked it. I just liked the way the really bold colours were like sort of just slapped into her head. It was wonderful, really, really good. And then obviously there's the Harmony Mousse one here, and one with really high hair. This was kind of the goal in the 80s, to get your hair like really, really high, and I just loved it for that. Anyway, getting on to how I used to look. So here I am in the 80s. I should be showing you these embarrassing pictures, but it's part of my story. So here we go with the orange Shangri-La hair with my friend Liz. it was a wonderful place, Chesham High, because we used to do fashion shows, and this is me with my friend Debbie, and they used to paint our faces. This is me with Rocket Pillowbox Red. It was a colour, I think, by either Directions or Crazy Colour, but I won Best Punk, I think, for the Nine Pins pub. I was only like 15 or 16. I shouldn't even been in there. And this is me with my friends Karen, Morag and Darren. This is when we used to go out clubbing in London, far too young. They had a bedsit in Hackney, which was an amazing place to go. But I had such good times in the 80s going up the King's Road, and it was a real goal to be photographed on the King's Road because that's where all the tourists went to see the punks. And people used to just hang around waiting for, and the punks used to charge the tourists to take pictures. And I remember it so well. And we used to go to the Great Gear Market, and that's where I used to buy Stargazer makeup. I'll just swatch some of this so you can just see how I think it's still quite bright. Yeah, look at the colour of that. Still really, really strong. But this was really lovely. And the other makeup I used to use in the 80s were Madeline Monroe, Barry M was really popular, Leichner. My kit at college, when I finally went to college, was Kryolan, and I found that in the garage, but that practically just walked itself to the bin because it was so toxic. But I think it's really funny when you are at college, and I'll move on to that in a minute, was you sort of almost go against what you're given to use at a college, I think, and you're really desperate to try lots of different products all the time. But actually, Kryolan is such a great brand to train with, and I loved it, and still go back to it every now and then as well, which is lovely. But I'll talk again about now. This is my friend Emma Brunt. She called herself Boo, and we used to go. It's obviously not a girl not to be messed with. We went up in our sixth form to the Mud Club in London, which was run by a guy called Philip Salon. And at that time, I used to dress like this. This is actually one of the looks when I used to go to the Mud Club. And the Mud Club had a night in Heaven. And one night when we went there for the Heaven night, the Pyramid night at Heaven, I was asked to come back the next week to be a dancer. Bear in mind, I was at that time doing my A-levels, and it was kind of like, oh God, well, my friend was like, you've got to do it. Well, I went back the next week, and hey presto, I ended up dancing there for about 6 months on Wednesdays. My mother used to get dressed up, go to the station, work there all night, come back picked up from the station in the morning, have about half an hour sleep and go to school. And my art teacher, Mr. Cochrane, used to come actually and watch me. He goes, oh, you did really well last night. It's hilarious. But it was a great job to do, and I met the most wonderful, colourful characters there. Boy George used to go, Marilyn, Mark Almond, Jimmy Somerville. All those people used to go to the Pyramid on a Wednesday at Heaven nightclub. And funnily enough, I went there just before lockdown to see an act, and the bouncer said to me, have you been here before? And I was just like, yeah, but quite a long time ago. I think I was probably double the age of most of the people in the queue, but we had so much fun at that club, and it was a great job because I used to get 10 free drink tickets. I used to drink lager and black, and then get free passes for everybody in the next night. So it was a really good fun job to do, and I met the most wonderful people there, and really sort of shaped me as far as getting to know people and just mixing with very creative, artistic people. I'll just go through some of the magazines I found as well. I think you saw this probably in my story, this 17 ad, which sort of looks even better on a girl. Well, you know, this was just wonderful because it was just like putting makeup on, and it was just a wonderful ad at that time. And obviously as well, I used to read a lot of smash hits, and that's a really good one. And here's one from 1983 with the Human League. This is a bit later than their sort of classic look, which was very, very long fringes, and we all had like little rat's tails at the back of the head as well. So Human League were great. I loved them so much. So I get to the end of my A-levels, and I think, I want to go to the London College of Fashion because it was one of the only places that did makeup courses, and the other places were private schools. It was Grease Paint, and there was Dawn Cragg School of Film, TV, Makeup, which is where I eventually ended up going, and had a wonderful, wonderful 2 years. But whilst I was at school, the only thing that they could offer me as far as careers, because Chesham was a grammar school. It was a mixed grammar, and it was a wonderful place to go because I had a wonderful dressmaking teacher. We used to do fashion shows. I showed you there with Debbie, and just wonderfully creative. But they gave me this. I found this today. Job opportunities in the BBC, makeup for television. 28th of November 1983. So this was the original document they used to give out or fire about how to fill in joining the BBC, which is amazing, really. I can't remember fun. But this was all that they could. This is all that they said. Oh, this is what you have to do. Of course, you've got no chance of doing that because candidates training should at least be 20 and a half years. Men and women are equally eligible. So that was good. Yeah, fascinating that I found that today. It was just like amazing. The BBC was the place to be. And I can remember watching Margot in The Good Life, and I just thought her makeup and hair was just amazing. And I thought, that's the sort of makeup I want to do when I go into television. But anyway, television was a little bit further away from me at this point, because I was up in Retford doing makeup course at Dawn Cragg School, Film and TV Makeup, which was a wonderful, wonderful first year. And at the end of that year, Miners Makeup were running a competition for Makeup Artist of the Year 1987. And here's my Miners Makeup. I've got loads of this up in Manchester, but as you know, some of you know, I work out of about 3 bases. I've got my makeup studio in Birmingham and a flat in Manchester. But anyway, so Miners Makeup first came to my attention through a magazine called Look Now, which was wonderful. And every month they used to run the Miners Makeup adverts done by the wonderful Phyllis Cohen. Now, I've had the very, very wonderful opportunity of meeting and getting to know Phyllis through David Horn at House of Glam Dolls, and forever grateful for him for introducing me to Phyllis, who also makes face lace. Check out the Phyllis Cohen archives, absolutely wonderful references of her work and her methods of thinking through designs. She's an absolute legend, and just an amazing artist, somebody that really, really inspired me. And also Julia Townend's been doing some wonderful interviews with artists on her forum too. So really, really worth. Yeah, Joyce, love Phyllis. Yeah, thanks, Julia. I say this to all students: is look for the original references whenever you can, because if you Google things, you just don't find the same thing. So go to charity shops, look for albums, look at television things. I've got something here, actually. I'll just pop this in now while I'm talking about that. But I found a Coronation Street 2000 edition, and it's got all these kind of references of what people look like. And okay, it was a bit exaggerated, some of the characters in the show, but it's still like a reference of sort of how people looked, which was really good. Yeah, absolutely, Xavier. Yeah. Oh, Nikki, that's the same. I did the Miners makeup competition in 1987, so I wondered whether it would run for a couple of years or something. But anyway, so this was the Miners makeup competition, and just wonderful. Scorpio, Scorpio, Capricorn. Anyway, wonderful. What I'll do is I'll do a post after this and put some of the pictures on here that I've got. So it's just such wonderful reference, but. These were the books that I was creating because I wanted to show colleges that I was really keen to be part of the course. So I went to the London College of Fashion. My friend Boo, that I mentioned before, we used to go around the clubs, and she used to say to me, don't speak, I'll do all the speaking. I was like her bridesmaid most of the time. I just used to follow around like some kind of mute doll, just to sort of just say, oh yes, I'm with her, and blah blah blah, and we used to, like I say, slap on so much makeup. But anyway, she said she wasn't going to London College of Fashion. And she said, oh, you should do it as well because you really like makeup. So I was like, okay, right, well, that sounds like a really, really good thing to do. And the lady in charge was somebody called Marcia Patterson. And Boo told me, well, she went before I did, and she said, they're going to check your hands. And at the time, I grew my nails really, really long. So I had to cut all my nails off and make sure my hands were really clean. And lo and behold, went to the interview. She made you sort of turn your hands backwards and forwards. And she said, oh, you're a boy. And they like people to do like quite a lot of hairdressing before they went to the London College of Fashion. So I was just literally just 17, and I just hadn't had as much life experience. So I ended up going to the Dawn Cragg School of Film and TV Makeup, which was actually the best thing for me to do because even though I love being at home, this was my first sort of venture into the big world. So I did my year's makeup course, which I absolutely loved. And then back to the Miners competition. I designed, this is with my friend Debbie, who I was with in the fashion show, and I designed this makeup, and out of 4,000 entries, I was the runner-up. which was great. And I designed this look round the Miners Cosmetics, and these were nail art stickers which I stuck in her hair and then cut them up and put them on the face and made them into earrings. And you can't see in this picture, but I made an outfit which was checkered and all that kind of thing. But it was like just such a wonderful thing to do, and I really loved that experience. And part of the prize, I didn't win, but the lady judging it was a lady called Linda Meredith, who I think's got quite big in skincare now. But so here I am with actually still found the actual certificate, which I found today actually in a drawer. So that was a really nice thing to do, and it was the first time that I'd ever been given any makeup. I was just like over the moon. They said, "Oh yes, you can take all this makeup," and I was just like, "Oh, it's absolutely wonderful." And it was run by Just 17, which was a magazine which I absolutely loved. So I've just got a few covers here: Yellow Lipstick, a very very young Patsy Kensit, which is great. And then obviously this was a one from a Madonna-inspired cover. But from this, I was offered to go to their open day. They had like a readers' open day, and I was there doing makeovers, and some of the makeovers ended up in the magazine, which I was really, really excited about. And I just loved it. It was just a great experience. And my friend Debbie, who I talked about before, that was my model, she was offered the post of a receptionist, and I was like, you should do it. And she never did in the end, but it was still good fun, and we had lovely, happy memories. It's another cover from Just 17 as well, which is great. I should put them in. Yeah, I should frame them. Yeah, I know. It's really good. Really, really good memories from these magazines. And also, I'm just going to mention very quickly, because I know I mentioned Madonna, but also you can't sort of bypass the influence of Princess Diana at this time. The blue eyeliner and the peachy pink peach lipstick was really, really influential to the way women looked at this time. And tomorrow, very excitingly, Delamar have got a talk with Mary Greenwall, who worked with Diana and the supermodels of the 90s, which I'll come on to a little bit later. But that's at 1:00 tomorrow at Delamar. So please do check that out, because that will be absolutely amazing. You should really, really... I should save this live. I don't know. I hope I can save it. This is the first live I've ever done, so I'll try and save it to my story. But if it doesn't work, I'm sorry. I'll re-record it and do it another time. So I went after my year of makeup. I went to London to try and get into an agent, which I think I went to Artistic License a couple of times, and they were really sweet. But I just had my college portfolio, and looking back now, I was kind of like, oh, so green. So I went back to college and I did a year's hairdressing, which I was really pleased on. It was salon based, so we were working with a lot of clients. And before I move on to the next stage of the talk, which is the 90s, I'll just show you a couple more things. These are from my mum's dressing table. This is number 7 blue eyeshadows, and the blushes, which are great. And this is another number 17 colour. So that's all of the... If there's any questions or anything else, just shout away and I'll try and answer some questions, and if not, just DM me afterwards and I'll run through it. So I'm just going to move this carefully out of the way if I can, and then just slide the 90s. Probably hear a big crash in a minute while it all hits the floor. So just slide. I love flamingos. Here they are. So anyway, just slide the 90s palette towards us. So here we go. So after failing to get an agent in London, I thought, I'll try Manchester. Coronation Street I loved, and that was what took me to Manchester. I know it sounds really silly, but I'd been up there for a hairdressing conference, and I just liked the city. It just had a really good vibe about it. Really going up to Manchester to these hair shows. And also, one of my best friends, Eddie, we used to go up there and go for nights out and stuff. And it was the start of Canal Street, really, and all of those kind of times. And the Hacienda was really up and coming there. The end of the 1988, 1989. It was the year of the sort of smiley faces and flares, and just a really exciting time to be in Manchester. And one of the first trips I ever did was with Laura Ashley, and what happened was I went round as soon as I got to Manchester. I used to go round on go-sees with my portfolio and try and get test shots with photographers, and I used to get these. I lived in a bedsit with a communal payphone, And I did all of my business from this communal payphone. And bless the people that used to live there. It was a really big house in Withington, split into like nine different flats. And people take messages if a photographer got back to me and says, "Oh yes, they'd like to do a test shot," or the photographer's assistant wanted to use a model. And it was such a great time. Met the best people. But I finally met my friend Gary, who gave me an opportunity at ALYN Model Agency in Stockport, and later on we moved to Carol Jones Agency in Manchester. So if anybody's watching from those times, oh my God, we laughed so much. It was so much fun. They should have made a sitcom out of that agency, because it was just hilarious what we got up to. But funnily enough, what I did was I ended up doing this is a shot from my first trip with the wonderful ALYN Wales, who at the time was probably just like a brilliant model. She had been in like Italian Vogue, and she's just this wonderful down to earth Scottish lass who was just so kind to me. And I wasn't very experienced, but it's just funny. Some of the people that you meet along the way just help you along. They lift you up. They make sure that your experience at work's really lovely. So a big shout out to Lynn. And funnily enough, what I found was this old hairdressing flyer, which has my friend Debbie on it, because my friend Debbie, she was just one of the most beautiful girls at school, and she won Miss Chesham's like newspaper or something, and she won this wonderful hairdo, which was all the girls at school like, "Oh my God, Debbie's hair's gorgeous." So she ended up being a hair model as well. And then I found out later on that my friend Lynn, that I just showed you on that show, she's on the same flyer on the back, which I couldn't believe. I said, "Oh my God, two of my like favourite people that helped me with makeup," because I used to paint Debbie's face when I was at school, and then Lynn there. But anyway, so that was just something that was a lovely memory for me. But anyway, so I was in Manchester and I was doing all these different shoots with different photographers, had wonderful times. I used to work a lot with a lovely stylist called Paula McNamara, who used to make these wonderful bodices out of trees and metal and wire, and we used to like climb waterfalls with my kit and all the camera equipment, and it was just wonderful times. And just come out with wonderful test shots. So while if any students are watching down in during this time, start to make plans with people who can help you on shoots and things, and come up with concepts and ideas that you could take to photographers, even if they're assistants, or because as soon as we can get back to work, we'll all be wanting to be creative again. And I think it's really great. And Tally, who's a great friend of mine from Manchester, she got me on a few shoots doing hair with her, and I'm forever grateful to her, because we made some lovely shoots together. This is supermodel Kirsty Hume that I worked with very early on in her time. This is my friend Helena, who this very sort of 90's kind of mad colours. This is my lovely friend Joanna. This was shot by the wonderful ALYN Constantine, who's now just an amazing photographer. At the time as well, I was doing a lot of shoots for Boots, which was wonderful. Did 4 shoots abroad with them for their Sun Shop. Again, Boots coming through for me, having bought their makeup early on in my career was just lovely. Here's one that I did with Tally, kind of a period style shoot, which was wonderful. Hi Denise, thanks for joining me. I'm coming to you soon. Stand by. This is a lovely model I used to work with called Carol Jones, who's absolutely beautiful. And like I said, the supermodels were very, very influential to me at the time. The work of Kevin Aucoin and Mary Greenwell. We just used to pore over the magazines of Vogue and the shoots and the fashion shows. Oh my gosh, they were just works of theatre. Just such a wonderful, wonderful time to be a makeup artist. And this photograph was taken by the wonderful Craig McDean, who's now fabulous, and he was a student at Blackpool when he took this. And later on, I'll get you to another picture I did with Craig, which tells another story, but I'll get to that in a moment. Another one with my friend Joanna, which I loved. So, Linda or Naomi? Oh no, I can't choose. Yes, ALYN did direct the Northern Soul film. Yeah, she did. Yeah, she was wonderful. She was teaching. She was teaching at a university in Salford, I think. And I used to go to her uni, and we used to just do the most wonderful test shoots together. Just so creative, and I still do those shoots, because I just think they're just wonderful. This was actually a picture I used on my makeup card when I was with the agency, and I couldn't find one, but if I do another one of these, I'll see if I can find it. And this was the agency I eventually ended up with, was Marco Rosala. This is my lovely friend Nicola. I did her makeup for this, but I loved working around the time. Anyway, let's talk about some of the makeup I used to use. This Ultima was very much colours I used, very kind of. Let me just wipe off the 80's if I can. It's probably stained my hand because it's so old. Yeah, it has. That Stargazer stuff isn't going to go away. So yeah, very sort of like browny, nudie colours. This was a beautiful one. I used to use this an awful lot. It's kind of like a bit shimmery, just very natural tones. And also MAC. These are the old packaging. I couldn't find all the lipsticks, but I know I've got them in Birmingham where I've got a lot of my stock. But they were sort of screw top ones, and this was vanilla. I think that's still around. This was a liner. You can see they're all very old. See, these aren't going to be used on anybody. Clinique, I used a lot of Clinique. I used a lot of Canebo. I used a lot of Max Factor. These Dior palettes were ones I used an awful lot. I used to love these. They used to come on all of my shoots. Oh, you've got every British Vogue from January 1990. Oh, wonderful. Oh, I've got loads of Vogues. I've got loads of Vogues from the 90's as well. They're wonderful, yeah. They're real treasures. Hang on to them. This was another palette I used to use all the time. I loved those colours so much. And in around 1992, my brother went to New York to work in an American bank, and I went out and stayed with him. And I used to buy. You couldn't get for a long time. You couldn't get MAC in the UK, and you couldn't get this pink and green mascara, which I know you can get everywhere now. But at the time, this was really, really difficult to get hold of. And obviously, the coloured mascaras, these all came in a little bit later in the 90's, I think, because when the Spice Girls came in with all their stripes and kind of things, I can remember putting those in my hair, or sometimes other people's hair, depending on the shoot. Revlon, again, another popular one. And I used to use this Shiseido palette quite a lot, 'cause it's absolutely mashed now, but I used to use that a lot. And I know these are still available, but I just wanted to show you. But when I was in New York, it was the first time I'd sort of seen like encapsulated products like this in packaging like that. And I wonder now, like when we come back, whether all makeup is going to be sold like this. And I'm wondering what's going to happen with testers and things. I don't think we're ever going to see a tester in a shop ever again after we've come out of this. But here are some of my Vogue references that I loved. See, supermodels of the 90's and all of these shows and everything. Anyway, you could do a whole hour on those looks, because it was just so influential and such a wonderful time. So my shoots in Manchester at the time, I was doing a lot of Coronation Street shoots. So these were things I used to do for the TV Times and Woman's Own, Sarah Lancashire. And in Manchester, we had to do. Yeah, Paul, thanks for joining me. Yeah, it wasn't going to New York just amazing. You could get hold of so many products that you couldn't get in the UK. It was just wonderful. Yeah, Helen, I love all the Dior makeup's wonderful. So good. Fabulous. Yeah, and here is my wonderful friend Denise, if she's still watching. This was the first time I met Denise on a shoot. I didn't do her makeup and hair that day. I was just doing Debbie's makeup. But a lifelong friend now, and we ended up working towards the end of the 90's on Queer as Folk, which is another story, and where I will end the talk in a few minutes. So when I was on these shoots, I used to work with all these sort of creative. This is from Brian Avalon. It's my lovely friend Rachel. We had so much fun doing those shoots. And in the 90's, my kit basically comprised of these products, sort of Lancôme, Bourjois, Bobbi Brown. Again, there's some Revlon there, and Body Shop. Used to use an awful lot of Body Shop makeup at the time. It was just wonderful, just really, really great. And funny enough, we sort of had less choices then, really, as far as products were concerned. And I suppose it was just like easier just to choose what you were going to use. And now I think we're just so sort of flooded with choices that sometimes you'll go and use a new product, and then you'll kind of go, well, actually, I kind of like what I used before, and you kind of miss some of your old friends, really. And sometimes looking back to some of the makeup that I used years ago, I kind of think, oh gosh, I really like that. And obviously, some of it isn't available anymore because it's discontinued. But I used to always love looking back at makeup and things. So I used to do a lot of these Coronation Street shoots with. It's one of the Amelia Bullmore, who was absolutely lovely. and lovely Amanda Barry. That was a really fun shoot. So I used to do all those shoots, and then I used to work quite a lot with a lovely photographer called Pete Walsh, who was doing a lot of the Manchester music scene. And this is from Mix Mag, which is 1993 with 808 State. And somebody on Facebook sent me this the other day, and I finally find this magazine, which was wonderful. But Manchester was such an amazing place, and the makeup then was, fairly minimal. There was kind of this look in Manchester which had very heavy eye makeup and very sort of red lips, and that was more sort of the model side of things. But generally day to day, women didn't sort of wear that much makeup, I thought, unless it was modelling for some reason. Again, here's another magazine that I found called Looks, which was, oops, I'm wobbling you. Looks magazine was a really, really, Pete Walsh. I love Pete Walsh. Hi, Kate. Thanks for joining. Do you remember the shoots with Pete? Oh, so much fun. Really, really good fun. Yeah. So again, a very kind of, different Schumacher, very, very popular. Sad that's gone, not in this country anymore. Again, Bourjois, Dior, Body Shop. Pretty much my kit really in the 90s. As I said, a lot of my stuff's in Birmingham at the moment, so I might be able to fish that out and do another one. Do I think makeup brands are better today? I think the formulations are slightly better, and I think we've got more choice, and I think the colour ranges are much better, especially in foundations. I think we've got far more options for different skin tones. I think that's a huge advancement in cosmetics from this period, because at this time there was very, very, very few brands. Florrie Roberts, I can remember, not many others. That wasn't great for that. But I think some now are so much better in that respect. What's your favourite makeup to use? Oh, I like all sorts of different makeup. I like Chanel, I like The Ordinary. I still like Dior a lot. I still like MAC a lot. They're really, really are my favourites. I'll keep on using those. And then in 1993, I met Craig McDean again, and he was doing a shoot for ID magazine, which I think some of you might remember. It was really cool. But anyway, I ended up in this magazine, which is the Wear Now for Manchester, and I ended up being photographed with the wonderful designer. I don't know what I was doing in this hole. And this guy's face probably could tell a lot of stories. But anyway, met Craig McDean again, and by this time he'd been in London working, just doing wonderful things. And he was showing me his portfolio, and he said to me, he goes, "Oh, I'm working with this amazing makeup artist. She's called Pat McGrath." And now you only see where Pat McGrath is, and I was just thinking, like, oh my God, I was with royalty then. It was just like wonderful to hear his stories of working with Pat then, and he had some wonderful, really early work of hers in his portfolio, and really nice. Really nice to meet him again on that shoot. Haven't seen him since, because my work took me more into television, but sometimes you never know where your career is going to go, and I ended up working in magazines a bit later on, again in my career. So I think my sort of like journey is quite up and down really, with wherever I'm going to be, with whether it's TV or film or photographic work. I just think it's an exciting business to be in, because you're never sure where you're going to be. So at this time I was doing all these shoots for the magazines, and I was also going back to the college I trained at, called Dawn Craggs, which was great, because it was wonderful, like, source of income. I could go backwards and forwards, and if I had a shoot, I used to be able to take a student onto the shoot with me. So it all worked out really, really well. So and at that time, I met the wonderful Linda Davey, who came to Dawn Craggs to do an animatronics course. And me and Lynn hit it off really, really well. And she said to me, "Would you like to am I still on? Yeah, I'm still here. Yeah. Can you still hear me? The app crashed then, so I'm not sure whether I'm still with you. Yep, I'm still here. Hi. So I ended up working at Brookside, which was wonderful, and I used to end up doing quite a lot of shoots for Brookie as well, which was wonderful. So this is Robert Beck and Anna Friel, which is wonderful, and we used to do Loaded magazine. Who remembers Loaded? And this was a shoot with Paul Usher and Anna Friel. Brilliant. Great. Thanks for letting me know. yeah, it went really funny then. It just froze. I'm not sure whether it's the connection or something, but anyway, yeah, Brookside was my first TV job, and I absolutely loved it. It was lovely being part of a unit, a part of a family, and Lynn and Helen Black and David Jones, sort of like my sort of TV family, and I just had a wonderful time working on that. And working on the soap really got your speed up, and you got to know about continuity. We used to use Mac Spice and Mac Mocha lipstick all the time. It was wonderful, and we used a lot of Max Factor there, and a lot of Rimmel. We have Bobbi Brown here and there, so it was wonderful. It was really nice, and here I am on a shoot in London with the wonderful Mickey Stark. He's always mucking around, grabbing my brush out of my hand. I think you can see that up there. Just put it across things, but yeah, such a wonderful place to work with wonderful, wonderful actors, and just the best times. So I stayed at Brookside for about 2 or 3 years, and I was going backwards and forwards. I was still freelance because I was sort of still doing my shoots, and that was nice. But I went full time then, and then I finally left there to go to work on a show called Independent Man with David Jones. But like I say, I love being in Manchester. And one of the funniest stories I'll tell you about Coronation Street was we used to go to the Number One Club, and Julie Goodyear, who played Bette Lynch, used to go there all the time. And one night she was dancing elsewhere, and her long hair sort of whacked me in the face. And I thought, oh, I finally arrived in Manchester. I've been swished by Julie Goodyear. But she was so funny. She used to sit up on this roped off area. Anybody who's remembered Manchester at those times, it was hilarious. Really, really good fun. So that was Brookside, and then I went to do the Independent Man, and then I came back and did Queer as Folk, which was a wonderful, wonderful experience, which is where I met the lovely Denise, and I've got my Polaroids from that time. So Jonathan, if you're still with us, here you are, and Denise. This is Linda Denise on that one, and a very young Charlie Hunnam, which was great. I mean, Queer as Folk was just one of the most wonderful stories and jobs to work on. It was groundbreaking, and just a wonderful show to do. Thank you, Russell Davis, for doing it. And was my first design job because David did the first series and then passed the second one on to me. So it was a great opportunity. There's a few more magazines I'll talk about while I'm here. I used to always buy Allure Magazine, which was wonderful, which was incredible magazine. Love that for makeup. And then obviously Bazaar and Vogue, which was obviously Vogue. Who wouldn't buy Vogue to get references from? But those were the magazines I really, really loved to use at the time. So, nearly towards the end of the talk now, but here's a couple more. There's another young Charlie Hunnam from Now Magazine, and another one from Gay Times. So it was a wonderful, like I say, wonderful time to be doing makeup, and really, really exciting. So I'm just going to scroll up. If anyone's got any more questions about anything at all, I'll just scroll through just to make. Thank you, Jules. Thank you for saying that. That's really kind of you. It's really lovely. Thank you. Sarah, I've got this magazine. Look. The wonderful Sarah White. There she is. Yeah, I was keeping that one to last. I think it was worth bringing that up towards the end. Yeah, Spice Liner. We lived and rocked a Spice Liner. Yeah, absolutely. Oh, Adrian, yeah. Lynn's fabulous. She's such a wonderful, wonderful makeup designer. I was working with her on an 80's drama in Manchester just before we went into lockdown. It was wonderful to work together again. Such nice, generous people, and very lucky to have worked with people. Wonderful. Adrian Rigby I did a ball cap course with. I think it was like August last year. That was a wonderful experience. Thank you for that, Adrian. Yeah, Anna's lovely. Yeah, thank you for that, Joyce. Fabulous. What was the strangest, most unusual shoot from the 90's? I don't know. Probably going up mountains with Paula's bodices and things. I think that was probably one of the most unusual places I used to go up to. It was it was quite quite unusual. But you end up in all sorts of weird and wonderful places as a makeup artist. You end up learning to do makeup in all sorts of places, changing people in weird, wonderful places. It's so unpredictable where you've got to do these things. I think it's really hard to pick one moment. There's so many. Yeah, Shumera's lovely. Oh, thank you. Yeah, the Pat McGrath. Yeah, it was wonderful. It was wonderful to work with these. Hi, Claire. Lovely to hear from you here. Yeah, I got to work with some amazing people in the 90's, photographers like Elaine Constantine and Craig McDean. They're just at the beginning of their career as well, and just wonderful to have that experience of working with them. So, oh, okay, lovely. Yeah, I remember Angel. So wonderful. So I think that's pretty much my end of the story. I mean, I could go on and on and on about the 80's and 90's, oh, thank you very much. Thanks, Tal. So just to end, we've been through all of these now, so you've seen most of the products. But like I say, if you want me to do one about the noughties and onwards, about the other makeup I used on things like Footballers' Wives and Mad Fat Diary and Gavin and Stacey, what has been the most challenging moments as a makeup artist, and what has been your challenging moment? Um, I don't think sort of challenges much. I think the most thing you've got to do as a makeup artist is really have the stamina, really, just to do all the jobs. I mean, I always get a little bit nervous before jobs, any job I do, because I think you always have to have that nerves to have the adrenaline to sort of keep the enthusiasm going. I just love my job, and I don't look at so much as challenges. I just look at them as sort of problem-solving opportunities. Really, I've never found my job challenging. The challenging thing about makeup is packing and unpacking and prepping beforehand. I think that's the hardest thing to do as a makeup artist is the packing, unpacking, and traveling. I think that's the hardest. That's probably the most challenging thing about the whole career. Um, Oh, Neil, thank you. Yes, I will. I'll do an update with this when I can get to my other places of residence. It sounds very grand, but obviously I had to close my studio, which I've got in Birmingham, which was the first thing to get locked down. So I've got so much more makeup and archives up there as well. So yeah, that was. Oh, thank you, Zabia. That's lovely. Yeah, I'll do the next one with the noughties and oh, Catherine. Oh, I'm going to find some photos of you next. 2010s, yeah, lovely. Thank you so much. Did I meet Dame Joan in the 80's or 90's? I met Dame Joan in 2005 on Footballers' Wives. That was the first time I met Joan, and she came in as Ava de Wolf, a magazine editor, and the rest of that is history. So I've been working with her for 15 years, but I'll talk about Joan in a later live, because obviously she's a huge part of my career, 15 years, and I don't think you can kind of condense this too much. And like I said, I've got so much more makeup I could talk about, but I think got to keep it down to the hour. Oh, thank you, Mars. That's lovely. I love working with you too. I've got the best team I work with, honestly, so lovely. Thanks so much, everyone, watching. Okay, I'm just going to turn the camera around and let you know a little bit more about what I'm doing next. So hopefully I can spin around and you can see me, because I can see we're getting towards the end of the live. Hi, thanks so much for joining me and watching.